Brides and grooms, welcome to Weddy Guru's wedding planning classes, where we break down every element of your wedding planning journey. Our goal and our joy, not just in these classes but here at Weddy Guru, is to simplify every step of your wedding planning journey and therefore free up your time to focus on building the foundation for your lifelong marriage. And of course, not forgetting that we shoot to have fun, that we reduce the stress so that you can have a lot of fun even on the day of your wedding. My name is Kimari Maina, wedding planner here at Weddy Guru, and in this class we are talking about how to create the perfect wedding timeline that will make sure that your wedding starts on time, runs on time, and ends on time. TIK, this is Kenya. That is what a lot of people say, and one of the reasons why people would say TIK, this is Kenya, is because of our habit to be late. It is unfortunate that this is the case for most of us who live in Kenya, that nothing ever starts on time, which is why when you do get invited for a wedding, you're not going to go at the time that they say you go. If they say that the wedding is starting at 11, you will go there at 12, because really that wedding is not going to start at 11, it's going to start at 12. Well, that does not have to be the case for your wedding. You can tell your guests that your wedding will start at 11, and it actually ends up starting at 11. And here's where we're a bit passionate about the wedding starting on time. We're passionate about that because if a wedding starts on time, then you will get to enjoy every element of your wedding without it feeling rushed. You'll get to enjoy everything you have planned out to do without rushing it or without removing it from the program, so that you can catch up with time. That doesn't have to be your case. Your wedding can actually start on time, run on time, and end on time. And let us show you how that can be possible. First and foremost, you need to draw a wedding day timeline. And what a wedding day timeline will do is it will give you a very good bird's eye view of what your entire day will look like from the time you wake up all the way till the time your wedding reception is over or wedding after party is over. In order for you to do that, you need to understand what the key elements in a wedding day timeline are, or in the wedding day are. There are 8 key elements in a wedding day. The first is the bride and the bride's party getting ready at the bride's home. That is the first element you need to think about when you're putting together a timeline. The second element is the groom and his party getting ready at the groom's home. The third is, where will the vehicles be decorated the morning of the wedding and at what time? That is the third element. The fourth element is, where will the groom's mothers congregate in order for them to go and sing for the bride? So that's the fourth element. The fifth element is, where will the ceremony be? Then where will the bridal party photo shoot be? Where will the wedding reception be? And where will the wedding after party be? In our wedding day, these are the 8 things, sometimes 7 in case you don't have an after party, but these are the 8 things that will happen at some point on the day of your wedding, and mapping them out will ensure, mapping them out in terms of time and in terms of location will help you be able to make sure your wedding starts on time, runs on time, and ends on time. I had mentioned location, so I encourage you, if you've not watched the class regarding venue selection or your location for your weddings, please go back to that class, take a look at it, and then come and watch this class. But yes, those are the 8 elements. Let me talk a little bit about each of the elements, and then after that I will move to how to develop the wedding day timeline. So for the bride and the brides, for the bride and her people getting ready, we're talking about hairstyling, makeup, putting on makeup. Then there are the photos that happen in the morning, and the photos sometimes include the photos you do, in your robes, for example, and then after the photos you do in your outfits, your wedding outfits. That also includes the bride being veiled in the morning by the mother, having breakfast, of course, but these are the elements that you would find in the morning for the bride as she's getting ready. For the groom, as he's getting ready, it's slightly the same but easier, because we don't have hair or makeup unless you want to have hair prep and makeup. There are some grooms by there who do who get their shave that morning so that it is nice and fresh that morning, so that too should be considered if that is the case for you. But yes, so there's the hair prep if that's the case, but other than that, it is simply photos as you get ready, and then photos in your full outfits, and then after that we leave. Then there's the place where the vehicles will be cleaned and decorated. Ideally, that should be as close to the bride's home as possible, because most of the vehicles are going to be going to the bride's home, save for 1, 2 to 3 vehicles that are going to pick up the groom. So deco ideally should be done as close to the bride's vehicle deco should be done as close to the bride's home as possible. There is the location where the groom's mothers need to meet up, and I also forgot, also the bride's mothers, and by that I mean the bride's mom and her community, a group of mothers who are going to be supporting her that morning. There's the location where they need to congregate. So let's begin with the groom's mom. The groom's mom and her people need to congregate somewhere so they can together go to the bride's home to sing for the bride. Ideally, that should be as close to the bride's home as possible. Chances are sometimes it can even be done where the vehicles are being decorated. And by the way, if the vehicles can be decorated at the bride's home, even better. But as an alternative, they can also be decorated where the groom's mothers are congregating. The bride's mom and her friends should congregate, of course, at the bride's home, and that should be done before the groom's mom arrives to sing for the bride. And then, of course, there's the wedding ceremony, which is pretty straightforward, the bridal party photo shoot, and the wedding reception. The ideal is to have all of these 3 events happening in one location, or in locations that are less than 10 minutes away from each other. Remember, as we discussed in the class on venue selection, that less time on the road means more time having fun and more time spent with your guests. And so please take note that you should make sure that these venues are as close to each other, including where the bride will be picked up from all the way till the wedding reception. All these venues ideally should be as close to each other as possible. But if they must be far from each other, try and make sure that the first the bride's home, where the vehicles will be decorated and where the groom's mothers are going to congregate, those should be as close to each other as possible. And then the wedding ceremony, bridal party photo shoot, and wedding reception should be as close to each other as possible. So all we're talking about in terms of transit is the movement from where the bride will be located to where the wedding will take place. I hope that is clear. All right, let's move on to how to develop the wedding day timeline. The first thing you need to do is to agree what time will the wedding start. Will the wedding start at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, or 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock? I think it's easier for you to then, once you've agreed on that time, then we work out the rest. Let me give a few pros and cons depending on the time you're starting. So first, as you're putting together a wedding day timeline, or as you're deciding what time your wedding will start, take note that weddings, generally speaking, take 6 hours. So it takes 6 hours for you to, from the time the ceremony starts to the time the reception ends. And if the ceremony and the reception are in different locations, add half an hour to an hour of transit time and people settling at the wedding reception. So if your wedding is starting at 10 and it's in the same venue as the reception, the ceremony is in the same venue as the reception, take note that it will most likely end at 4. Well, that's a very well run wedding that takes 6 hours. But if your wedding is in different locations, then if it starts at 10, it will end at 5. And again, that is a very well run wedding. Now, if your wedding is a Catholic, if your wedding ceremony is being done in a Catholic church, add yet another hour, because Catholic ceremonies last even longer, where most ceremonies will last 2 hours on the higher side. Catholic ceremonies will last 3 hours on the higher side. So I think it's important for you to take a note of those dynamics as you decide what time your wedding will start. All right, now that you figured out what time your wedding will start, you now begin to work backwards. So if the wedding will start at, let's say 11 is usually a good sweet spot for most weddings to start. So let's say your wedding will begin at 11. You say, okay, in order for the wedding to begin at 11, it means that we need to have arrived at the wedding ceremony at 10:30. Give yourself 30 minutes from the time of arrival to the time you actually march down the aisle, because arriving at the ceremony is not starting the ceremony. Arriving at the ceremony still requires you to disembark from your vehicles together with your guests for the bridal party to be arranged for your wedding to start. So give yourself half an hour. And therefore, if we are arriving at 10:30, we calculate how much time it's going to take to move from the bride's home to the wedding ceremony, that 10:30 arrival. So let's assume it's going to take about an hour. It ideally should not take more than an hour. If it's taking more than an hour, consider moving your wedding ceremony closer to your wedding venue, closer to the bride's home, or moving the bride's home, which is highly unlikely, but consider then moving the bride's home closer to your wedding ceremony. All right, so let's then say you left at 9:30 so that you could arrive at 10:30. So we keep working backwards. So if we're leaving the home at 9:30, that means the singing ceremony, which ideally usually takes an hour, should start at 8:30, which means that people should start congregating at 7:30. So people congregate at 7:30, they start singing at 8:30, we leave at 9:30, we arrive at 10:30, we begin the wedding at 11. I hope you've seen how we've worked backwards to determine the time the mothers should congregate. And you continue. So if the singing ceremony is starting at 8:30, it means that the bride should be ready at 8:30. It means that the photos, which last an hour, should start at 7:30, which means makeup for the bride should start at 6:30, which means hair for the bride should start at 5:30, which means she should wake up at 5. Are you seeing how we are simply working backwards to determine then what time should you wake up? Similarly for the bridesmaids, based on getting ready by 8:30, what time should you wake up? Let's add breakfast in there, maybe add half an hour for breakfast, etc. For the groom, if the bride is arriving at 10:30, then you should arrive at 10. So let's say you are also coming 1 hour away from where the ceremony is, you should leave at 9. And let's give you 2.5 hours for you to prepare and take photos. That means you should be up by 6:30 so that you can start preparing, get ready by 9, leave, arrive at 10, start the wedding at 11. If the singing ceremony is starting at 8:30, vehicles should be ready at 8. That means vehicles should be decorated 1 hour before, which starts at 7. I think you get the gist of working backwards to figure out the starting time for each element in your wedding, the elements that we had discussed before, that then lead up to the starting time. And that is how you make sure that your wedding starts on time. All right, so let's talk about going forward. Now that we understand what it means to start your wedding on time, here's how to make sure your wedding runs on time and ends on time. Factor in the time it will take for your ceremony. And what you do is you break down every element of your wedding ceremony. How long will it take for you guys to march in? How long will it take for the praise and worship? For the nuptials, which is the vows? For the certificate signing? For the sermonette that the pastor will give? For the MC's announcements? For the recessional? For the photos that will happen outside the church or at the front of the church if you're doing this in a garden? All that time, how much will it take? I can give you a ballpark time estimate that in garden weddings, most garden weddings will last two hours thereabout, so an hour and a half to an hour 45 minutes from the time the ceremony starts from the time you guys march in to the time you guys march out, and then an additional half hour for the photos. So usually about 2 hours 15 minutes is the time that most garden weddings last. Now sometimes the pastor may say it will take less, which is fine, and it's a good thing that the pastor says it may take less, but we would rather advise you to plan for 2 hours 15 minutes, and then you surprise yourself and you have time in your hands, than to plan for an hour and then you realize you are now an hour behind time. So it's always good to have extra time in your hands than it is to try and catch up with time. So in your program, we would recommend you put 2 hours 15 minutes. That is for weddings that are run by most churches apart from Catholic churches. Catholic churches, you will need to add an extra hour because Catholic wedding ceremonies have the addition of a mass, which takes another hour. So because of the Catholic mass within the wedding ceremony, it will take 3 hours to 3 hours 15 minutes. Consider that as you're writing the time schedule, the timeline. All right, so now we've figured out what the ceremony looks like and the photos thereafter. Then after that, you consider how much time it will take for the reception. Now in this case, if it's a garden wedding, you're talking about your photo shoot that is going to be happening in between the ceremony and the reception. How long will that take? And would advise you as a couple to both check the time you will take away from your guests and the time your guests will take to be served and to be entertained. These two things should tally. One should not be longer than the other, and in most cases you will find that the bridal party's photo shoot lasts longer than the time the guests need for them to be able to be served lunch and to be entertained. And hence why people end up sitting waiting for the bride, realizing, oh, bibi harusi amechelewa. Oh, poor bride, I'm so sorry. By the way, it's not your fault. Let me just take a moment here to acknowledge the fact that the bride is not at fault when the wedding starts late. The bride is not at fault. It is the circumstances around the bride that unfortunately make her late. So, for example, if she's sharing a makeup artist and the maids wake up late and they start their makeup late, automatically the bride's makeup will be late. And then the time the mothers arrive to start singing for you, and then they realize, oh, it's because the bride is still being done for her makeup. No. Imagine it's not your fault. It is the fault of everybody else who arrived, who started before you late, and hence why you're late. Which is why we would recommend get your own makeup artist so that you're not depending on other people's timeline for you to be early. And then we go for the photo shoot. And again, same thing. Oh, the bride is running late. Why? Because of the photo shoot. Again, it's not the fault of the bride. I think we should stop blaming the bride for lateness in weddings. It is the circumstances around the bride that cause the bride to be late, but it's not the bride. Most brides actually want to be on time. Most brides are timekeepers. They just need the support to make sure that they're able to be on time. I apologize, our dear brides, for the unfortunate brand that has been placed on you as you plan your wedding. And hopefully this schedule will help you be a timely bride, or make sure that the people around you are timely and therefore you can be a timely bride. So we're talking about the time between the ceremony and the reception. Just make sure that you do not go too far away for your bridal party photo shoot. If your bridal party photo shoot if the transit time lasts more than 15 minutes, consider changing the photo shoot location. It should not be more than 15 minutes away, because most photographers will ask for 1 hour. So if you look at 15 minutes transit going, 15 minutes coming back, and 1 hour of photos, that is 1.5 hours. Most times food will be served well before we get to 1 hour, and therefore that other half hour is left for people to be entertained. So similarly, you should not be more than 1.5 hours away. And then the other secret I will give you, dear bride, is don't try and get your bridal party to follow you. Just move. And this one I'm talking to you and the couple and your groom. When it is time to leave. Do not try and muscle up your bridal party to get into their vehicle so they can leave. For so long as they can see that there's that white dress over there, and that white dress is still visible, they will not be in a hurry to leave. But the minute they see there's a white dress over there, the minute they see there is no white dress, the bride is nowhere in sight, all of a sudden people wake up and decide, haya, tumewachwa, and they move into their vehicles very quickly. So if you want to manage your bridal party, manage yourself. The minute you're moving, even in the morning, don't worry about whether they are ready or not. You move. The minute you start moving, they will start moving. The minute they see you're chilling, they'll start chilling. So just move. Get ready. Be on time. Don't worry about the rest. Get another maid of honor. Get another bridesmaid to focus on whipping them in terms of time. But for you, just prepare yourself. Be easy. Yeah. And when you're writing a time schedule, have buffer time. Do not put exact times. If the wedding is supposed to start if the transit time between home and the wedding ceremony is 1 hour, put 1 hour 15 minutes. If the makeup artist has said makeup will last 1 hour, put 1 hour 15 minutes. If the pastor says that the ceremony is going to last 1 hour, make it 2 hours. It never hurts to have extra time in your hands to work with, so that we make sure that you are on time. There is a tool that we've put together that will help you be able to write down this timeline. It's called the wedding day timeline. Just scan the QR code above and download it, or ask for us to be able to send it to you. There's a questionnaire you'll fill, and once you fill in that questionnaire, we'll send it to you. All you need to do is just put in the start time, and when you put in the start time, it will automatically populate the rest. And then after that, all you need to do is just change the timings based on how you have been advised. Automatically, it will give you the timings for everything. Once you've finished filling in that wedding day timeline, share it with your parents. Get them on board. Once you've shared it with your parents and they're on board, share it with your vendors. Get them on board. Ask them, based on this timeline, what time should you arrive? Yeah. And here is hoping that it will be useful and that your wedding will start on time. Check out the tutorial also on how to use this particular tool. It will break down even further how to put it together to make sure that your wedding starts on time, runs on time, and ends on time. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. We do periodically check our comments to answer the questions you post there. But better yet, why don't you just join the Weddy Guru Wedding WhatsApp community? Here we answer your questions frequently, and not just yours, but the questions of those of other couples who are part of this community. And then you get to see the answers to these questions that are being asked. And again, not just about this topic, but about any topic wedding related. So scan the QR code on the screen and sign up to join the community. The sign up link is also in the video description below. Are you looking for a wedding planner who will turn your wedding into an experience? Let's talk. Call or WhatsApp us on 0725 883 553. Whatever your journey may be, it is our hope that this has begun to simplify your wedding planning journey, allowing you to focus less on your wedding logistics and more on building the foundation for your lifelong marriage. My name is Kimari Maina, a wedding planner here at Weddy Guru. See you in the next class.